chorus and sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the ball. Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Shimboners podcast. As usual, I'm joined by the Big Chief. On today's podcast, we will be covering our two hit-outs so far in the pre-season, our intra-club match and our game yesterday against the D's at the home of footy at Arden Street. We'll also be covering a couple other things, some injury news, and obviously Jai Simpkin's performance in the Indigenous game. Chieftain, welcome.
Thanks, Baz. Good to be back. I was expecting to be talking quite glowingly about a decent win, which is what I was expecting in the Matt Sim v the D's, but not to be so.
Yes, well, we'll get there in a minute, but I'll just say that a lot of our listeners were very keen to get our thoughts because it's a bit of a tough one to judge the pre-season. But we will get there shortly. I want to start off the pod by just sending out our well wishes to my favourite Shimboner of all time, Ben Cunnington, who it was revealed during the week that has spent 10 days in hospital dealing with some blood clots. So obviously we know the great man has had a lot of health issues over the last couple of years, and we're glad to hear he's out, and hopefully he's recovering and can make a full recovery because we love Cunners and just want him to live a nice, healthy life.
Absolutely. All the best to him and his family.
Before we also get into the agenda, I want to talk about the tipping competition. It's back. It's going to be sponsored again by our friends at Supercoach Rings, SC Rings. Find them on social media. So our winner will be walking away with the big Michael Jordan-like ring to flaunt and tell everyone that they're better than the rest.
Yes, exactly. And I reckon I'll be winning it this year.
I doubt it.
Well, mind you, I would have tipped us to beat the D's in Matt Sim, so that wouldn't have gone well.
You're having more holidays than the AFL players at the moment. Kane's going off about them having time off. Well, you're going to rival them this year with your little 2 international holidays in the middle of footy season. I'm not sure who ticked that off, but anyway.
Well, one's at the end. One's grand final weekend.
Yeah, we're going to miss
and
out
prelim
on
final.
Flag Roos. And more importantly, more realistically, I suppose, that'll be in the prime AFLW season then too. Be a few winning pods that Fredo will be able to jump on because I don't think he's had one yet. So anyway, some other news quickly before we dive into our thoughts. Josh Goda, unfortunately, a 6-week hammy for him, which is a strange one because there was that initial worry, and I know Dwayne the Pain Russell actually said on one of the scratch matches that he'd done his hamstring. The club said he was clear on a limited training schedule after that, and then he's done it again. So he's pinged his hammy, 6 weeks. Not great news for the Billy Goat because we know that he is one that we were looking to break out in 2025.
Yeah, it's no good at all. Let's hope he can get back full strength.
Because you were very cautious about the Achilles injury because quite often players don't come back at the same level, and not a good sign that he's already had a setback with that.
Exactly, and we've seen CJ's obviously had... Oh, sorry, CCJ has had many a setback by the look of it. He's well behind.
Yeah, it's not great, but we hope he can get back and a slow transition back to football because we all know his ability, and as we'll touch on, those half-back positions are by no means nailed down by other players, and he's a good user, a good height, and someone we could really use after watching the last couple of games.
Yeah, his height is probably the point of difference to all the others. He's got good wheels too, I think.
And he's a good user too.
Yes.
Not just a 20 metre.
No, long penetrating kick.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. The last thing I want to touch on was great to see. I thought the AFL did it really well, the Indigenous game. I tuned in, watched it, loved it. It was great to see them all enjoying themselves and having fun. But the best part was seeing Jai and obviously win the Polly Farmer Medal Award. It was great to see him back to his best. I'll just touch on his stats quickly. He had 30 disposals, 18 of them contested, 10 clearances, which is the big one for me. He kicked a goal, also had the 2 behinds. But also, something that didn't get mentioned, I had a deep dive into the stats. He only played 65% of the time on ground.
Wow.
So that's a big stat line in just that short amount of time. And also the great vision of him with the touching moments after he kicked a goal for his pop, who he unfortunately lost around Christmas time last year. So great to see our skipper back firing, fit, and looking at his best.
Yeah, and finally got a few accolades. I think people have forgotten outside our club how good he was, and even some of our people, because by his own admission, he'd been down on his own high standards the last couple of years. Well, I didn't watch the game, but I did watch 3 minutes of Ultimate Jai highlights that the AFL put up, and that was fantastic. And well done to win. And I wonder if they're going to bang on about, they bang on about, such and such, Nathan Buckley's a 3-time, or Pendlebury's a 5-time bloody Anzac Day medalist. Well, let's hope they mention Jai's a Polypharma medalist a few times.
Yeah, to go along with his 2 Sid Barker medals. And great to see him back. He looks fit. I don't want to harp on about too much because I've mentioned a lot on this pod, but the injuries that he dealt with last year and the sickening concussion definitely played a part. So great to see him back. He's got the sole captaincy. You've tipped him on our first pod of this year to be one of your breakout stars for the year, and he's definitely put the right foot forward to begin.
Well, yeah, he's obviously broken out before and is a star, but like I previously mentioned, a couple of quiet years, I think he'll be back to his best, which we saw a glimpse of.
And just quickly, how do you reckon our backline would have gone defending the Indigenous All-Stars? Oh boy.
Well, they couldn't defend Melbourne Reserves yesterday, so I don't know how they'd have gone, but like I said, I didn't watch that game.
No.
So only the highlights of Jai.
But some interesting. I know, just another quick sidetrack before we get into it. I know that a lot of North fans were very much watching the interactions between Jason Horne-Francis and Jai Simpkin, but clearly those two have put it past them, and it's going to be a what could have been, but we got George out of it, so I'm happy to move on from that. Right.
And the unicorn we got out of it as well, don't forget.
Yeah, he did some nice things
The
yesterday.
icing on the cake.
Absolutely.
Could be the whole cake by the end of his career.
So the age-old question, right, let's get into it, is how much weight do you hold on pre-season, right? So there's talks about, I heard David King during the week saying these unofficial scratch matches, should they even be televised? Right?
Well, for me, yes, but the quality yesterday, horrendous.
No.
So we're just starving for footy content, aren't we? Watch a game this time of year. So I think, yes, fantastic they telecast it, but could they not use the interns to hold the camera? Because that was wobbling in the breeze more than, I don't know what, more than a sylph playing with his hair.
I've spoken to a few of our listeners, particularly one, Jason Stone, who sent me a big rundown, so thanks, Stoney. It was really bad. Apparently the TV didn't do it justice, the amount of wind conditions and the heat as well. So, but I want to touch on the intra-club first, because we had a few listeners asking us about us to do a reactionary pod, but we just dropped one the day before.
Yeah. And
you've got a Dennis Pagan quote to bring up about intra-club matches.
Dennis Pagan famously said, it's like dancing with your sister. So do we really want to put too much into that?
No, I've never held
they went to the dance last night, a social dance, and they went home alone because they were horrendous.
Yeah. And just on the intra-club, I don't hold a lot of weight to it. If Sheasel was not getting 30 against VFL standard players, you'd be concerned, wouldn't you?
That's right. If, the Zoo kicked 5, but he's playing on one of our own, so someone's letting him kick 5. Someone's letting someone run around getting 30 possessions, and it's probably only a VFL affiliate or top-up type. So I give it nothing. It's nice. I want to get through uninjured, and that's about it.
Well, that's the number one thing I think in these pre-season games, and if you listen to it's funny because we all wait so long for football to come back, and then after the intra-club, it's, wow, how good do we look? We're going to be rising up the ladder. And then yesterday, we looked pretty flat a lot of the game and dish out a really disappointing, particularly the second half, performance against the D's. And it's, we're going nowhere. So I don't really read too much into either side. I mean, there was things to take out of yesterday's game against the D's that were positive, but there was plenty of negatives as well. And no doubt we'll get into them in a minute. But yeah, the intra-club, you could. From what I watched, a lot of the stars are still, going around in second gear. Like LDU, for example, he was electric yesterday, but in the intra-club, you could tell he didn't really get out of second gear.
No, I think the intra-club is probably more important for the fringe players.
Well, the things I took...
Trying to get in the starting 23.
The things I took out of the intra-club was probably Matt Whitlock starting in the A's and getting a look at him. I thought Zane Dersma did some really nice things for the pink side.
Yes.
Eddie Ford, another French player.
Your man Eddie, he was on fire early.
I'm shocked he didn't play yesterday. But anyway, he did some really nice things. So I suppose that's more what I look to take out of the intra-clubs than... You know what you're going to get from your A-grade stars. Like, you don't want the Larkies, the Sheasels, the Sherrys to get injured. But they've got to get those reps in as well. So I focus more on sort of the 16 to 30 players on the list.
Even just the new recruits like Whitlock showed that he's got skills below his knees. I mean, we know he's tall and he's going to be a good mark, but a couple of occasions really clean below his knees, and I think that's great going in the future because it means he could go forward, because you need to be clean below your knees. You need to be able to get the ground ball if you're going to play as a forward, as a tall as well. Can't just be a marking target because we don't tend to mark it.
No.
And who else? Voss. I think we saw him step through traffic a couple of times. Even yesterday we saw it. And you think with him, Jai, LDU, Harry, McKercher, they can all step through. They can all step through traffic and get it from the inside to outside, ball in hand. And then that's going to be a massive weapon for us, I think.
Yeah, and then you combine that with Will Phil and Tommy Powell, who hold that ball. It's what Lachie Neale does really well. They hold the ball the extra couple of seconds to draw the player, so then they can release and give space to the recipient. So
Tommy Powell's another one. He can step through. He's not as electric. He's not as fast doing it, but he's fast of mind. So, he will hold the ball and just release at the right time or step back through, which is good. As they all spread to cover their men, he'll wait that extra second to the space to open.
Have you got anything else on the intra-club you want to touch on? I didn't have a lot to really talk about. Obviously, you can dissect it and pump it up as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of a glorified training drill at the end of the day.
It is just dancing with your sister, practicing your moves at home.
But the number one thing is no injuries to come from it, which was great. Now, let's get into yesterday's game. So we saw the 30-man or 27-man. I can't remember how many were named. There was a few players that we were interested not to see in. Obviously, Whitlock, a lot of people wanted to see. Zane Dersma is an interesting one, but apparently battling a bit of a shoulder complaint, so whether that's just more load management. Jai was named, but was probably never going to play as he had the hit out the week before. Who else was there? There was another one. Eddie Ford is another one that was raised a few eyebrows.
Let's call a spade a spade. We had our best available in, other than Jai, but he withdrew himself because he wasn't quite feeling 100%, which is smart because you don't want to twing another hamstring or get an injury because you're not quite there. Other than that, fringe players who missed out. So our best 23 available versus Melbourne's best 12 plus top-ups is how I'd assess it, just off the run. They had, at least 8 senior regulars out, if not more. And not just regulars, but all-Australian quality players.
Yeah, so you had the likes of Gawn, Petrarca, Salem, Langdon, Stephen May. There's some pretty handy. I'm sure there's others I'm forgetting, but...
Yeah, Spargo is probably maybe a little bit fringy, but he's normally in around their best 23. And
Fritsch, another one.
Fritsch, so he's definitely in their best. Well, he's their leading goal kicker every year.
They even didn't want to get a bath from Jacko again.
No, like Gawn didn't want to face X. But all jokes aside, I went to bed very excited on Friday because I'm thinking I'm going to get up and we should win as a par. Not just win. I thought we should win by 6 goals with the teams named. And what happened?
It was a shit show.
It was a shit show. And even if you take 2 points behind at half time, it's against some well depleted Melbourne side, and it'll be a vastly different side in round 2. We can't really improve. We can bring Simpkin in. That's our only major improvement. And look at who they get to bring in. You've just reeled off about a dozen names.
Yeah, so I'll say
and to be 2 points down on our home deck, not good enough.
I'll play devil's advocate here and say that it's only pre-season and maybe they're just trying some things out and you can't read super duper too much into it. But the big non-negotiable for me, I wanted to see was we've heard from the players a lot about how this pre-season's different.
We hear it every year.
They want to come in
No,
and
fair
set the
dinkum.
stand. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying this
For
is
50 years, I've been hearing it's a great pre-season. I mean, Jai's always leading the pack. He's always super fit, isn't he? As an example, they're
Yeah.
talking about Jai's had a really good. He's always the top 3 in the time trials and everything.
But the point I'm making is, it was their first time on TV, basically, as a proper hit out, even though it was an unofficial scratch match. And I don't care if, due to the wind, the skills aren't really up there, but it's the effort that we wanted to see. And you and I watched the game together, and how many times did Melbourne walk it out of our forward 50?
Horrendous. Now, I will say that they were kicking with the wind in the first quarter. So I reckon they had a few drop back, didn't they? Because we seemed to play... Our ball movement, I think, was much better into the wind than it was with the wind.
Yeah,
We seemed to get it to about 70 out and then just bomb it. And they'd have 16 players there and then just get the ground ball and work it around and walk it out, as you said. I think they beat us on the spread. That's effort. Right, from any clearance, they seemed to get it to the outside way too easy, and then there was just no pressure going forward. Our backs were 5 metres off their man all the time. And they were able to hit just a little lead up. Now, because the vision was horrendous, and obviously we were watching it on TV, you couldn't tell how much where their starting position was, or whether it was a big shove and that's how they got clear. But too often they were just standing at least 5 metres off their man, and a little leading lane, they just hit it up and clunk it.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too hard at players or, read into it too much, but this is an opinions podcast, so that's what we're going to deliver. But I thought, from what I saw yesterday, I thought Griffin Logue and Charlie Comben had really poor games.
Yeah,
I thought the whole back line, except for Core and Archer, had really bad games. And obviously Caleb Daniel played really well.
Yeah, so he probably had his worst kick in his career at one stage. It cost us a goal. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, but his other 29 were pretty good.
Yeah, no, he was good. And we'll talk about him probably a bit later, will we?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about him now.
No, we'll talk about him a bit later, but we'll just give our initial thoughts still. But
look, when I say the spread, you don't want anyone ripping a hamstring because you're going 100% in a match simulation, officially it is. But I think there was some damning vision which I saw when I would just watch the highlights of us not identifying, of ball watching the midfielders.
Name them.
Well, name it was Colby and Tommy Powell. And they were watching the ball carrier and not identifying Cozzy Pickett, who ran from the back of the stoppage, past both of them into space and received the ball, resulting in a goal. And that's on the highlight package if you want. You can see Colby clearly, and I think Tommy was as well, but I was watching Colby. His eyes always fixate on the ball, or their ball carrier. You've got to identify who the receiver is. I know they're all attacking midfielders, but this is the growth. You've got to be when they've got the ball, you've got to be a defensive midfielder. You've got to identify, I've got to run with that player so he can't get the ball. Or if he gets it, I'm there to grab him straight away, not just let him waltz it through. And that was one incident, and I'm sure there were many. They've got to learn not to identify, not to just watch the ball, but identify where the ball's going next.
Well, that sort of segues
And if you can't get their point. Yeah, we hate the pointers, but you got a point. You're closest, you go and get him. He's going to go, especially Cozzy, he was on fire.
Oh, he took the piss, and Van Rooyen. But another player who really performed for Melbourne, that there might have been a bit of no accountability on, was Harry Sharp. He kicked 4 goals off a wing and seemed to have more time and space than anyone, because I don't know if the North player got lost in transition or was potentially going back to support the backs, but he had a lot of time and space inside forward 50, and he kicked 4 in the end, didn't he?
Yeah. There was one round stop or contested ball, or like a 50-50 ball. I think it was his first goal, and Arch was, again, 5 metres off him. Made a big effort to smother the kick or put pressure, too late, goal. You can't. Now, whether that's just a match sim set up, they're worried more about getting the ball out fluidly and not so much worried about the goals, conceding, because it is only match sim, so that's the only out I can give them. They're setting up more for transition than defence.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to switch on in round 1.
They are, and at the end of the day, it's still a match sim. But the second half was a concern for me because we just looked so unlikely. And in the first half, what I really liked was we were taking those short kicks. hitting the 45 to get sort of towards the centre square, and it seemed like there was a bit of a game plan there. But the second half looked like it was just back to kick it long down the line and hope Larky or Darling outmark 6.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was the whole with the win. We just kicked it long too much, I think. Long and deep, and they had us outnumbered, or it seemed like 2-1.
Yeah.
We didn't get many crumbs. Will Phil got a crumb and snapped a nice goal, but we can't rely on that. I mean, we've got to be better. Whereas, conversely, when they went forward, they lowered their eyes and hit a leading lane. I mean, Van Rooyen, he looked like bloody... I don't know who. He looked like Tony Lockett coming out of the goal square.
Yeah.
They just hit him up all the time. No one seemed to be back shoulder with him.
Our back pockets half-backs lost too many one-on-ones too. Luke McDonald and Darcy Tucker both had
yes,
poor games.
Luke was very unlucky with one free kick, which was just not there. But, got outbodied too many times for a 30-year-old experienced player for mine. And like we said, they had a lot of stars out.
Yeah, and it was just...
Jefferson hasn't played. Looked likely, didn't he? I think he was lined up on Luke a couple of times.
I think it was a work rate thing because whenever the ball seemed to hit the ground, they had an extra number every single time. And that inexperienced midfield, the likes of Lindsay and Langford that hadn't played a game,
yep,
they were doing too much damage on our mids who, are in their third, fourth year in Phillips and Powell.
Bailey Scott, not sided much.
No.
I mean, the coverage was horrendous, as in watching it on TV, but because there was lack of commentary. They were talking about where they go for their favourite latte more than they were about who had the football, and the replays were pretty much non-existent. And I've got a little dig at the umpiring. Now it's their pre-season as well, so I understand that, but it happens every year. There's too many soft free kicks paid, and we got some. And they got some. And I don't like it. I'd rather them err on the side of, oh, no, I won't pay it, let them play. Pay the blatant ones, but there are just too many forwards getting soft ones. I mean, Larky got 2, and they may have been there. I don't know if they were, because they didn't show a replay.
Well, he's not going to get them in the...
Well, remember against Collingwood, he got about 3 or 4, and that was it for the year. We don't want to waste them in the pre-season. We want them in the real thing. But you agree?
Yeah, I do.
And it's not just our game. I watched a couple of highlights of the other games, and you just think, let them play. That little bump. Like Archer knocked over Tom Powell, apparently, and he got not Tom Powell, Tom Campbell, who's twice his size.
Yeah.
And I think there was a fair bit of mayo, and he got a free for that. And I thought, was that a free?
No, I'm with you. I think there's too many ticky-tacky ones called. Like, call the obvious over the shoulders and the push in the backs.
Yeah, chopping a big chop of the arm, but there's just too many soft ones for me. And it happens every year, and we look forward to the footy, and then round 1, 2 and 3 with bloody umpires, we're just annoyed with them. And maybe they're instructed. It might be their fault. They could be instructed because the AFL want goals, but... Do we want goals from free kicks?
No.
Only when they're there. We want them from good play, marks, snaps.
So you reckon the rest of the comp are going to catch up to Curnow because he's been getting it the last 5 years?
Well, that's the other thing. It's got to be consistent because we saw LDU got a massive push in the back as he kicked it and no free. And then about a minute later, he pushed someone in the posterior, which you're allowed to, not into the lower back, the gluteus maximus, and it was a free kick. And just on that, we had a little funny moment, we thought it was funny, when Silv had a downfield free, remember? Something happened and Robbie Hanson Jr. took it from the pocket on a tight angle and they didn't bring it back to Silv 30 metres out, lock it down. And then we said if that was Big Finbar, we'd probably prefer they take it in the pocket than him 30 metres out.
We'd rather than kick it from the car park.
Yeah, the car park, yes. So that's just a... bit of attempted humour. We love Finbar.
We are big Finbar fans, of course, and needed some nice things in the second half. But I want to touch on the free kicks while you're there. There's just a point I've got. Nick Larky and Paul Curtis. Too many. They did it again yesterday, and they did it last year, giving away stupid downfield free kicks.
Yes. Silv does it too often. And was he sticking up for Foss? Because there was something written about...
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Old Carrot Top had a go at Foss.
Well, that might
and maybe he came in to stick up for him, but then, of course, quick on the whistle, bang. You just got to be a bit smarter.
The Curtis one
it doesn't really matter in a match sim, but these habits go into into the season, can't they?
No, but it's one of the knocks on PC, and it was that one yesterday was dumb. Like it was a stop. The play had stopped, and I think he gave away 50. Just the Melbourne bloke stood up and he just pushed him back to ground. Like it's just stupid. Full double in the chest, and PC when you're that strong, when you're benching 160, they're going to fall over like the
probably
winds.
break a rib.
Yeah. But that's just my little point on that.
Yeah,
Like,
and they got to be smart this day and age. We're not a team that can afford to give away silly free kicks and 50s.
no. Right, let's get into some positives. We've hit plenty of negatives,
Yeah.
and we're going to focus more on the players. We will have negatives as well, but we'll start with the positives. Bring the pot up a bit. I mean, LDU was best on ground for mine. The way he moved in traffic, he looked like the Rolls-Royce 8-year, $1.3 million contract that he hopefully will sign soon. I mean, he was probably the best on the ground for mine, either he or Cozzy Pickett from Melbourne, and just the way he evades traffic, he was brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree. Only played 3 quarters too, didn't he? So that's good. Just 3-quarter hit out. But just on him, I mean, the club just needs wins, even in match sim. And we better win. I'll put it on the agenda now. We better beat West Coast.
Well, will they send such as... We had arguably our best 23 in yesterday.
It was. The only one missing was Jai. The others are borderline.
So I wouldn't send Big X over on a 3-hour plane to Perth. I'd be saying, nah, too risky. Larky the same. Wrap him up in cotton wool for round 1 in a very winnable game against the Dogs.
Well, I thought round 1 and 2 were very winnable, but Melbourne seconds got over us yesterday.
But how much do you read? I know, I understand.
I know.
It's the argument, isn't it?
Well, when you've had, we won't say it, but not many wins in the last 5 or 6 years, I want to win everything.
Yeah.
I want to win the coin toss at the start of the game. That's how desperate I am for wins.
And, yeah, obviously with the strength in the lineups comparison, I suppose the biggest thing that hurt North fans, it was the expectation, wasn't it? You see the lineups, you go, right, they're missing 8 of their best 23. We've got pretty close to our best 23, as we've mentioned, bar Simpkin. And you think, right, well, now's the time, sort of thing. And it is match sim, and we're not going to throw the baby out of the bathwater, as the coaches love to say. But it was a bit concerning, and we're supposed to be doing positives, but I want to go on this. When Nick Larkey said he thought the forward pressure was as good as he's seen, I nearly fell off my chair.
Yeah, they walked it out. There were a couple of good moments, but as a whole game, no.
If it wasn't Constanti, no one was applying forward pressure. No. And my man Cam,
not to the level.
Did Cam play?
I'm not sure if Cam played.
But yeah, he's might come up in the negatives. But
he danced really well with his sister the week before.
Yeah. Let's get back to some players who I thought played quite well. Caleb Daniel, I touched on a bit before. Have you got any thoughts?
Look, and just composure, doesn't he? And there was one area where all the outlets were to the right, and he just held the ball and came back to the left because they had them all sort of covered. They would receive the handball, then be under pressure. Just the composure to think, no, the tide's going that way, but I'm going against the tide and got it out to someone on the left, and we're away. That you just got to, you either know that, like someone like Harry, or you get it through experience. And he's probably a bit of both, isn't he? He's naturally good at that, and he's had the experience to hold the ball and get a really good option. Could see that the others were going to be easily shut down, and don't infer the pressure. We've done that for too often with handballs, haven't we? Just pass the pressure along. Yeah. He got rid of the pressure, and whoever the user was had time and space, and that's what we want.
Exactly right. Jack Darling, really impressed with his game, and I'll put in here the duo of he and Nick Larkey because they worked really well together. But Darling, I suppose we all know Silver's a gun.
Yeah.
But Darling, I'll put my hand up and say I was pretty critical of that acquisition and not entirely sure. But our first real chance to see him against opposition, and I thought he was really, really impressive yesterday.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't be. If he went out and had a free hit at any forward, he would be well down the list. But unfortunately, he comes in and he's an upgrade on who we've had there. And no disrespect to Toby Pink, no disrespect to Big Tess, but he's an upgrade on them.
He is, and probably the biggest shoulders in the world.
He's massive.
Bigger shoulders.
Massive.
But, and he spent some time in the ruck as well.
Yeah, which I'd rather than Sulv. I'm happy to concede the ruck contest because he'll be good at ground level, and I'm sure unless there's a goal just after Big X comes to the bench, he won't have to really do the centre bounce after a goal, really. But I mean, it could happen, but he shouldn't. They should be able to protect him enough from having to do too many of them. If X has already had his 2 minutes, get him back on after the goal, get him in the middle.
I think it was the first quarter. It was, because we're kicking to the left of screen. The first quarter, Will Phil had the perfect weighted kick to Darling, and he dropped it.
Yeah, you and I both hands to the heads then, wasn't it? Thought that's like in the grand final where he dropped the put on the goal line to seal it.
Exactly, and he for all the good he did at West Coast, he was known for dropping the odd doozy.
Yeah.
But to come back from that, you know, at a new club, there was probably some groans around the ground, and to come back and perform the way he did, his lead up was awesome, and he's that outlet kick that we can do. He's pretty good one-on-one. I was really impressed with his game. Another one.
Set shot goal kicking, you know. He only had one. One fell a bit short into the wind, but yeah, he looked composed with the ball in hand.
And he's a good shot at goal.
Bit of the old JJ sidestep on the way in.
Yeah, was he?
What's his name?
Yeah,
JJ Kennedy.
Yeah, Josh Kennedy. Next,
why do I call him JJ? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. His middle name's probably J. I don't know. But next one, Foss, Finn O'Sullivan. You mentioned earlier just a bit of composure and step through traffic. He did everything right. I think he only played 2 quarters. Yeah, maybe a bit of the third because Disco Stevens came on.
Yes,
but from what I saw from him, ticket fleet round 1. Put him on the put the magnet on the board already.
Yeah, well, he's got that evasion from in close, very LDU like, and Harry and Wingate Colby.
And let's be honest, our wing position's no good.
No, we've got a defensive winger, and that's it. And we obviously haven't got the stats, but watching on TV, poor old Bailey Scott wasn't featured a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was running hard, but he didn't get the pill a lot.
He was probably on the wing where the wind was, you know.
He could have been,
good,
yeah.
So.
Well, he plays a defensive winger, but anyway.
Yeah. Will Phil, I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I thought he was good.
The 26-inch pythons, you just know what you're going to get with him, don't you? Like, he didn't have a massive stats day, but when he got it, he makes it count. I thought he was quite good. Luke Parker, his second half was brilliant. He went into the midfield, was tough around the ball, got a lot of clearances, got his hands dirty, and just showed what he really is going to bring to this side.
Yep. I thought he... slight negative. There was one where he just bomb kicked it out of a stoppage and he had someone free to his left. It would have been a good release handball. But, like, nitpicking, but... that would have just been a cleaner release for us, and our forward entries are horrendous, and that is a reason why, if we just bomb it.
Yeah, and Paul Curtis, I want to touch on him.
I thought he was our best forward along with Larkey.
And Darling.
Yeah.
But just on, this is going to be an interesting topic for you, because either he or Zurha, we were speaking yesterday, one of them needs to kick, or if not both, but at least one needs to kick probably 3 a game.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in that position... it's hard for them both to perform at the same time. I'm not trying to cop an out for Zurha here, but it's hard as that sort of 3rd, 4th tall, small forward option to be consistent. So we obviously saw Zurha kick 5 in the Pracky, and then Curtis, I don't know how many kicked yesterday, 2 or 3. But he was
2-1, I think.
Yeah, so we just need probably 4 or 5 goals a game from those two combined.
Absolutely. Combined, so it might be 4-1 and 1. It might be 5 and 0.
Yep.
But I think we need at least 4 with the way our forward line operates per game combined from both of them. Hopefully 5.
Yeah.
And I thought PC was electric in this game, and he's just dynamic, and he probably dropped a couple of marks, which, I remember Colby into the wing kicked a really well-weighted ball to him, and he flew over the back of his opponent and just didn't quite clunk it. But we might give that a little out, being the first real hit out and the wind.
Yeah, exactly right. We're not gonna overreact. We're not gonna say anyone's gonna win the Brownlow. We're not gonna say anyone's done. So
no, and we're probably overanalyzing for a match sim, but we just, or me particularly, I'm very disappointed with the result.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if it was a 10-point loss or something, you could probably eat that. But it's the way it ended up in the 47-point margin
On our home deck.
Yeah, and to reiterate back onto the selected sides as well.
And we had the wind in the last quarter. So the fact it blew out and we were kicking with the wind really, and I think one of the actual match things they mentioned on the commentary was after Tommy Powell's reverse torque bounce off break in the goal square about the 4-minute mark. I don't think we had they said we didn't have another 50 entry inside 50
right.
with the wind in the last quarter. But, I'll take that with a bit of a grain of salt. But certainly all the momentum was to the left of screen into the wind.
The big X is off, and you know maybe in the back of their head they've been told just to get through.
Get through. Yeah, that's right.
It's hard to analyse.
But yeah, it is. So we'll move on. We've whinged enough about it.
Yeah, just a couple of other positives. Not players that had super big games, but did some things I liked. Taylor Goad, the first couple of centre bounces, he couldn't get a hand to it, but he had a couple of nice moments in there. I thought Finbar crashed the packs well and provided a good option as the second ruck for the times we want to see that. I thought he did well enough to break even, and he's similar to X, big frame. If he can just sort of throw his weight around, and he doesn't get outmarked, that's what I like when the ball goes inside 50. A couple of negatives, right? I've touched on most of them already, so I'll just fly through them again. I thought, Logan Chom, just going through second gear. We weren't able to get any intercept marks, but we did. There was a massive wind, so that sort of makes it harder in those positions.
Chom got a couple when we went into match sim, and were they defending? I can't remember. It was the last quarter, and he was basically left on his own, patrolling half back. So he did what he had to do.
We were defending because we won that.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. So he did what he had to do, and Mark.
He was good in that 3-minute. I will give you that. Just a positive I forgot to touch on. Shees. Just some class. He wasn't massive on the day. That goal on the siren at the end of the first match sim, just to work it with the breeze, magnificent.
Never looked like missing.
His use, as usual, was fantastic. I mean, he just did what he needed to do and got through. That's sort of the big takeaway, isn't it? No injuries, and that's what we want this time of year. Zerha, I've touched on him, and then McDonald and Tucker. I mean, Tucker had the worst moment of the day, which is usually generally pretty clean.
Yeah, mopping up around half back. And you can say it's only one mistake, but it costs a goal. Potentially two, because we had the outnumber at half back. We could then rework it in. But it got nutmegged, or just it didn't seem to bounce that awkwardly. And man of his experience, 20, 30 odd games, and prime of his career at 28 years of age, should be able to grab that loose ball.
Yeah.
And got through him, goal out the back. Just can't, and that's one, if we're only going to kick 12, 13 goals, we can't be letting an easy one like that go through. And then there was another, I can't remember who it was, but we had the outnumber forward, 2-on-1, and we managed to butcher the kick. And then I remember Zerha got it in the pocket and tried to square it up, and that was just should have been a walking goal, especially against a depleted Melbourne side.
Yeah, it's not like he had Stephen May on the last line
exactly.
there. So, that's sort of their main thoughts. But we're a bit flat yesterday, but we're talking to my sister, your daughter.
Yes.
And she's come with the great analysis. She said, well, we always seem to win in pre-season and turn out to be shit. So the roles reverse. She reckons that it doesn't matter about this time of year and that big things are still coming. So that's the sort of positivity
we like it.
We like to bring to this pod.
Someone positive in the family. Because last year we beat the reigning defending premiers in Collingwood in match sim.
That was when North Ball went.
I booked my holidays for September thinking I've got to get over to Victoria at the G. Follow them around for 4 weeks of finals. But not this year.
But that's just our general thoughts on the game. Obviously, like we've said a million times, it's pre-season. We're not going to overreact and say we're set for another bottom two. But in saying that, we're disappointed with some of the performance we saw yesterday, particularly in that second half. With, what is, for a bottom two side, a lot of expectation on growth coming this year. North fans have been very patient, but the patience is starting to run thin. And yesterday was our first chance to get out there and put a performance together, and it was disappointing with what we saw.
Yep. Anyway, onwards and upwards to West Coast this week, where I will say now, unless we send our VFL team over, we should beat West Coast.
Yeah, I'm not sending the guns. on the 3-hour plane.
It doesn't matter. They've got 2 weeks before the game.
Well,
They're going to get jet lag.
No, I mean more to the fact that,
You're worried about
get
injuries.
a bit tight. The Big X, I'd be making sure he's in business class, get the legs stretched out. I don't want him cramped up sitting behind bloody John with the chair back and he's a bit sore, and then it's just injury prevention for me.
Yeah, I agree, but it's just the risk you got to take.
It is, and that's part of what the life of an AFL footballer is. So as long as he's up the front of the plane, I'm happy. I don't even let him drive it.
Yeah, I think you want all the WA boys playing next week.
Well, we've got a million of them on the list. Actually, that one that comes to mind, I want to see Hardiman play next week with that position very much up in the air. I want to see him get a good crack at it.
Yep, yeah, I agree. Right, are we going to talk about our new segment?
Yes, that you've been working on for a while.
I have, and we thought of it last year, but I thought, well into the season, so it was too late. But we do for the new listeners, we do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 each for the regular season games, and finals if we're in the AFLW area. Very similar to the Coaches Award votes.
Yes, and it's for the most prestigious award.
I was getting there. The most prestigious award in all of the AFL, the Basti, named after our first guest on the Shinboner series, Ryan Bastanak. So that can be a midfield heavy medal. So I'm looking for this next award. Is called the True Shinboner Award. And this is for what epitomises a shinboner. Never give up. Put your body on the line. So I'm looking at that sort of effort. And it only has to be one effort in the game. You could have donuts and get a smother, and you're going to get this, all right? So examples. My favourite moment of last year, I think, Big X's chase on Flying Ryan, right? That's just shinboner. Epitomises Shinboner. Maybe we should call it the Big X Shinboner Award. We'll see. He would have won the inaugural. Anyway, and another one. We'll go to the AFLW. Tess Craven against Port Adelaide when she came back with a flight and got absolutely crunched, but caused the spillage, caused the turnover, put her body absolutely on the line in a prelim.
And the game was dead by then.
The game was dead. Sure. Didn't matter to her. 100% all the time. That's Shinboner stuff. So they're the efforts we're looking at, and I think we might even invite the listeners to maybe submit some. We might miss some. They might be live at the game, and we're having to watch it on TV. They might see something that we missed.
Absolutely.
So, and there can be more than one nomination per week, but there might be some miss out, or there might be some weeks where there's none, because we rely heavily on watching them on TV.
Exactly. So
but it's not going to be goal of the week. It's not going to be goals. It's not going to be high marks. It could be a desperate mark coming back with a flight. It could be a desperate smother or fist on the line, or just putting your head right in that trough.
I like it. I'm just thinking probably 50 nominations for Jackson Archer at this point.
Yeah. Well, if you looked at yesterday's game, which as again the coverage was horrendous, but Costanti had a really good effort early on where he sort of came really hard at the ball carrier when what we want is frontal pressure and just crowding with real aggression and put a bit of the panics into him. So that would have been probably an example of yesterday, and another one would have been Big X, who started well, but then I think Tommy Campbell probably equalled him by the end of but X has probably gone back to second gear.
Yeah.
But he had 2 or 3 efforts in a row after a centre bounce, pushed someone over, then fell clumsily, as I love, onto someone's back and didn't give a free kick away, but just let him know he's around. So they're the sort of things I'm looking at.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah.
There was one where young Jacko in the forward pocket for Melbourne just sort of dove across into the leading lane of another Melbourne player and took the contact and ended up getting the spoil and stopping the easy chesty for probably Van Rooyen, I suppose it was, because he seemed to have every chesty in the forward line. So
that's the desperation we're looking for with this award, and at the end of the year we'll see who gets the most nominations.
Yeah,
and
they'll
be the winner.
I like it. There's something about you, and you don't mind inventing segments, do you?
No, going on segments. One of our OG segments, Media Street. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I saw the Herald Sun rolling with the big Media Street headline.
So the Herald Sun are listening now.
Yeah, and they didn't even quote Dennis, because obviously we started off Dennis.
Yes, for those new listeners and the younger generation, Dennis Pagan, dual premiership coach, did not like players doing media. I don't know how he coped this day and age, where you've virtually forced into doing media.
No.
Well, the AFL got a rule, you have to do it.
Do you know what I'd like to see? Dennis coaching Hawthorn. He would go ballistic. He would go ballistic.
Yeah, so Dennis didn't like players walking down Media Street, as he used to call it. So that's why our segment, where we look closely at the media and any gaffes they've made, it's almost Media Street brackets Sam McClure stuff up segment.
Well, you've got me, because I actually forgot, but I've got something to bring for Media Street.
Oh, okay.
One of our loyal listeners, I'll give him a shout out, Big Tristan, on, great name, like the Big X. Tristan on Instagram hit me up with this, because I hadn't seen it, and this must have been right when it happened, because it came out in the media a few days later. Nick Foote, you're in the firing line this week. AFL umpire has come up with a partnership with Sportsbet. Now, I've read into it a bit, and apparently he's just offering... so they have like
offering how many frees Curno's going to get.
They have a person who provides tips and shares their bets, right?
Yep.
So apparently his is only for horse racing. But AFL, you've had so much criticism about umpires, and obviously the Brownlow debacle that they had there. How has this been ticked off at AFL House? That, go and sign up as a partner of Sportsbet as an AFL umpire. How many times every decision he makes is going to be heavily scrutinised?
Yes.
Every late fourth quarter free kick to a forward is going to be questioned from now on. I just think it's a terrible look.
Well, you can bet on anything. You can probably bet on free kicks, can you? You can certainly bet on goals, possessions. You know, there's all these sneaky little ones.
What about if he pays a free kick for first goal scorer? Like that's good odds. It's just got so much potential to go wrong, and he's also opening himself up to an abundance of abuse as well.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't know why he'd want to do it. Obviously, there's a financial gain, but I hope I don't want to... Umpires are a part and part of the game. We don't want to see them...
and they can make errors. But now maybe an honest error might be, that's a bit dodge, because look at the odds for that happening. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just... I wouldn't want to be part of it. And they cop enough abuse, and now everyone's aware of it.
It doesn't pass the smell test to me. The pub test, Tristan said. I was going with the smell test, but it doesn't pass the pub test for me. And, just... really raised the eyebrows when I saw that. So once again, thank you, Tristan, for sending that one in. And sorry, he did do it before the last pod, but I had a mind blank, so I will appreciate that. And my bad that it's taken me this long to bring it up. But yes, very interesting. Have you got anything else before we let the listeners go?
No, that's it from me. Like, a bit disappointed, but there's a long year to go. It was only match sim, so a practice match. Is that above a match sim? Yes, is the answer. I think it is.
Yeah, well,
this is your last hit out.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm expecting a lot better effort or result.
Well, one thing we can say is that we'll be back next Sunday to give our opinions on it. And before we go, I've got some breaking news. So there's going to be a new club to get some merchandise. We're going to roll out some stubby holders with the Shinboners podcast logo on one side and either the characters of us, or there'll be a one that has the Chiefs Frothy Club, and they look fantastic. Our media marketing manager's done a great job designing those. So they're just being made at the moment.
Yeah,
so
you put your froth in the Chiefs Frothy Club. Yeah. I like it. I'll be getting one comp.
No, you'll be paying full price.
At least not double. I thought you were going to double it on me. But yes, so that'll be an easier club to get into than the most prestigious, the CCC.
Yeah, or the what about the fastest rising club that been pretty much non-cited yesterday, except for the newest member, Big PC. But right, that's enough of us waffling on. Thank you again for listening, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. So leave your thoughts on the social media. Please follow us across there on the Shinboners podcast, or if you're listening on Spotify, I know you can leave comments. So leave your comments in the comment section about how much weight you put on pre-season and what your thoughts were, and whether we've been too strong or not strong enough. I look forward to hearing your feedback. But once again, couldn't do the pod without you guys, so thank you very much for listening, and that's just about us. So.
Yes, I can only say we can only analyse what's in front of us. Now, I didn't like the look of what was in front of us yesterday, but anyway, we'll leave it at that. And bye from me. Go on the Kangas!
Thanks again for listening, guys. We'll be back to review our next hit out against the West Coast on Sunday. Thanks once again. Until then, go Roos!
Good old North Melbourne, the champions you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you.